Hello, I'm Cerrie and I'm going to read you a lovely story all about the SOS superhero. This is The Adventures of Cyril Squirrel by Cat and Stu Fisher. To be a superhero takes brains and superpowers. Sometimes you have to rescue folk and fly around for hours. It really is important that you'll always be prepared to help anyone and everyone who may be feeling scared. Now, Cyril Squirrel had this, a superhero heart, and Cyril had a mission which simply had to start. Education was in danger in schools across the land. He had to save the teachers. He had to lend a hand. And Cyril's school was special. His teacher was so kind. She had a way of helping a confused and muddled mind. But the teachers had a problem that really wasn't funny. They couldn't pay for books because there wasn't any money. Cyril sat and thought about this problem that they had. The lack of funds for books and things had made his teachers sad. The money used to be there. It couldn't have all been spent. He decided that he'd find out where all the money went. He went into his classroom and he looked under his chair. He looked behind the teacher's desk, but the money wasn't there. He went into the hall to look, but that was empty too. Cyril sat on the cold hall floor and wondered what to do. He'd never had this problem. He'd always saved the day. Whatever case he'd had to solve, he'd always found a way. His teacher came and sat by him and asked why he looked sad. She said a problem talked about was never half as bad. "I want to find your money," he said, looking at the ground. "I was sure it must be somewhere here, so I had a look around." His teacher smiled and rubbed his head and said, "I'll make this better. The best way you can help us is to write a special letter." "You know my writing's not so good," he whispered in her ear. "So how will writing letters make your money reappear?" His teacher got some paper and a pencil from her desk. She gave them both to Cyril and said, "Try to do your best." She asked him to write down all the things he loved the most about his lovely little school, then put them in the post. And when he'd finished, he realised what a superhero would do. He'd talk to all the other kids and ask them to write one too. So all his friends, his mum and dad, his nan and grandpa too, all wrote their letters about the school, and the number of letters grew until one day he came to class and couldn't believe his eyes. A great big sack of letters was there. Imagine his surprise. His teacher smiled at Cyril Squirrel with a look of utter pride, and this made Cyril Squirrel feel like he would pop inside. She asked him to the front of class and told the children there how Cyril's little letter had made so many folk aware. Some ladies from the SOS went off to Downing Street. The children's letters went in to make their strategy complete. At number 10, where plans were made, was where they had to go to ask with passion in their hearts if kindness they might show. for every child told of their love for proper education, said money spent on schools was an investment in the nation. These were tomorrow's doctors, teachers, engineers and carers, the captains of the football clubs, the pilots, the seafarers. Scrimp on the schools that teach us and the cash it saves is small. If years ahead, when sick, you find an empty hospital. No one in schools, no bridges built, no one to help the poorly, no sporting triumphs, planes that fly, a sunken navy surely. So on we go and off we go to spread our message wider, that even a Prime Minister can need someone to guide her. For snip snip here and snip snip there is breaking all the rules. If you want a better future, then you have to save our schools. This story was called The Adventures of Cyril Squirrel, SOS Superhero. It was written by Kat and Stu Fisher and illustrated beautifully by Fleur Orchard. If you've enjoyed listening to this story, you can find it at your local bookshop or maybe even in your library. And if you would like to help save your school, then don't forget to write your letter, just like Cyril.
Message in a bottle.